Thank you so much for coming today. I'm Marilyn Rice. I teach in the College of Education with the Curriculum Instruction Department, teaching various things in educator preparation and in our master's programs. I've been teaching online in some form or fashion for 10 or 11 years, beginning initially with what we had available here on the San Houston campus as more hybrid, and then gradually adding more and more online elements of my courses as the technology allowed it. And so I've been teaching purely online classes for probably about 5 or 6 years now. So what I have found is that I'm constantly struggling to figure out how do you communicate best with your students when they're online. That has really progressed over the years because the more technology we get, the more choices we have, the more opportunities we have to actually communicate with our students in the way that they're comfortable. You know, our whole purpose here is to help them learn. And we're going to get into this a little bit about we have to figure out how they learn a little bit, how they receive information, to know how to present information and how to communicate with them. So limited for 30 minutes. I'm not going to go in depth in a lot of these, but just touch on some different things that I found kind of helps me to be aware of as I'm teaching my courses. Can you guys see this up here? Shall I turn the lights off? I think you can see it better with the lights off, actually. Now, is that too dark? You have enough light coming in? Good. That's good? Okay. And I apologize, I don't have a clicker. So as much as I like to walk around when I present, I think I'm going to be pretty much tied back here to change my slides. So, do you have effective or defective communication in your online course? And as I said, I'm in the College of Education. Okay, we communicate in many different ways every day in many different modes, methods, that type of thing. A few of the things that we see people communicating with: emails, blogs, TV, radio, internet, and I even put newspaper on here because we still read newspapers, books, we still read the written text. Different people communicate in different ways. Now the challenge here is that we are responsible for teaching all of those people. And I did not mean to be prejudiced on whether the people are older or younger, but if you'll notice, I thought it was very interesting. The pictures that I found online, if you notice, they put the younger people with the more updated technology. They tend to put, I didn't do that, this is what I found. They put the older people with the newspaper, and I do have to point out the TV with the rabbit. Couldn't pass that one up.
They at least have a remote, though. Now where they just use the kids and say, hey, go turn the channel.
All progress.
I had to do that.
Progress, exactly. Technology. So, but you know, this is reality. This is the world we're in, and technology has changed so quickly, progressed so quickly, is that we still have people that are comfortable with some of the older ways, as well as the younger students who are embracing this and just going forward. They can't wait to buy the newest, greatest thing that comes out. Once again, we get to teach all of them. So to make it a little more equal with the older generation, I do want to demonstrate. These people obviously are getting it. They're actually with it here. So just to make sure that you understand it. There are some that also continue to communicate this way. Okay. We have to work with all these different ways. We have to think about not only the hardware that they work with, but the media that they work with, how they do their work, how they communicate. You know, do they prefer Facebook? Do they prefer Twitter? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer talking through blogs? What is their preference? Now, that's not to say that we always have to do our communication that way, but we do have to be aware of where they're coming from, so that maybe initially we may have to approach them where they're comfortable, and then eventually turn them around and bring them into the way we also want them to learn. Okay, so we have to consider this when we design our courses, because poor communication or miscommunication can lead to some really unwanted results, such as confusion or what? We have to be clear on our directions. We can't give mixed signals to our students. We have to be clear on our directions. So, in that case, we want to make an effort to be clear and more specific, such as we may have to draw pictures that are more specific of what our intent is, or now I was a little perplexed by this because I wasn't sure if the touching line causes instant death, who are you going to find $200? Wasn't sure what that was. Pretty clear to begin with, but then it turns into confusion when you say, if you touch the line, you're going to be fined $200. Okay, so something we need to consider as we're thinking about communicating with our students is their perspectives and their perceptions. The perspectives are, it's their existing knowledge. It's their schema. It's what they come to us with. The ideas they have, the facts that they know, and it's the interrelationships that they have developed as they enter our classrooms. Okay. But then we also have to consider their perception to knowledge coming into that existing schema. What is their cognition? What is their process of understanding? And how does what they come to us with affect how we communicate with them? Kind of an example, they come with an existing schema, then we have to bring information in and we have to help them fit that new information into their existing schema. An example here, we all see things differently. So how many people see a white vase? How many people see the two glass silhouettes? How many people see both? Yeah. Just an example, you're teaching the students, and you may have students, you have two different students, you show them one thing, and they see two different things. Okay, all this is tied to their backgrounds, where they grew up, what they were exposed to, whether they traveled, what they did for fun. You know, you have some of our students, and I know in some of my classes, I know, some of them had never, they would say, I've never been more than 50 miles from where I was born. Well, you have a pretty confined, restricted background. But, and especially with the number of graduates we have, 50%, over 50% are always first-generation graduates. There are a lot of new things in their lives. So, once again, we can't assume that they know what we know coming into the course. We have to take that into consideration in our communicating with them. Just my experience is that I've noticed that, and I've tried a number of different things over the years, is that when my students perceive, when they have the perception, whether I feel like I've done it or not, whether if they have the perception that I have been more attentive, that I have been more available to answer their questions, and that I've responded more in a timely manner, then I see that they have become more engaged in the course, they work harder in the course, and bottom line, ultimately, not all the time, sometimes my IDEA scores are improved. Okay, I realize that a lot of you guys have already been teaching online for a long time, and I'm sure you have lots of ideas, and I'm going to let us share those at the end because we all need the benefit of that. But what I have here are just some of the things that I have found that help me communicate better with my students online. Online office hours. I don't know if you guys already have online office hours or not. You don't, but you don't have to, that does not have to dictate your life when you're not in your office either. There is a balance there. But I have found that when I have online office hours, and I usually do the online office hours at night, the way it works for me is I have my face-to-face office hours during the day posted, and my students are welcome to come in. And I do have a lot of online students who come in just because they're not comfortable with that online thing. And if they're in the area, they make a point, and they come in and they say, I just wanted to meet you, I just want to see you, just want to shake your hand. They just like that connection. But I make myself available a couple of nights out of the week, usually Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I usually log on to Skype about 8, and I'm usually on there till between 9:30 and 10. Now, it's very interesting is that some people log on and they really do have a question. Some people log on and they go, I like this new Skype thing. How does this work? And all they want to do is just kind of, hey, how you doing? You know? But that shows that I'm real. If you want to just sit on and come on and chat, I'm fine with that. Because what I do is my area is teaching technology. So to me, I'm teaching them technology in the process of whatever it is, the content is that I'm really supposed to be teaching in a classroom. So once again, depending on your students' backgrounds, this may be something very novel. They may not have the concept. They may kind of be hesitant about it. But when we work them through, once again, we have added another form of communication for them. Oh, I have found this to be pretty effective also, and I hate to say you're going to have to set aside a time to do this, but what I have found with my Skype office hours, I have a lot that do not come on and ask me questions. So I've decided a lot of times what I do is I make sure that I say, okay, at least one time throughout the semester, I require you, and it's part of the syllabus, it's part of the points for the course, you're going to have to log on with me. We are going to Skype at least one time throughout the semester. Now what I usually do, because I think this is more effective, is I usually put them in groups. So I have them sign up in groups to come on, depending on what times, what evenings they're available. So they have an option. But once I get them logged on, we start talking about assignments. They start asking questions. They have a support group already because they have the other students who have come in, and we're all talking together. They feel more comfortable because there's another little group that they can go to if they have questions. And what I find is because of that a lot of times they will go to those people to ask those questions before they come to me to ask questions. And the feedback on this is every semester I have students say, I really did like the Skype conference that we had that really helped, that it lessened a lot of my concerns, a lot of my stress, and that really made me perform better because I actually felt like you were there for me. Online question and answer. A lot of different ways you can do this. But, because we have them within eCollege, Blackboard, or we can go outside. We can do, a lot of people set those up, the Q&A in Facebook. The last couple of semesters I've been using Edmodo for my question and answer.
What's
a lot of different places.
What did you say? I'm sorry. After Facebook, what did you say?
Facebook. Some people use Facebook. Some people use Edmodo. It's EDMODO.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I use it a lot is that a lot of the K through 12 schools are using that. It's a learning management system. And it, once again, I teach my students how a technology tool in the process of teaching them the content of the course. And I've had a number of students that after we had the experience with Edmodo, they have taken it into their classrooms and set those up. But with a question and answer, they can ask the question. Their peers can answer a lot of those questions. Now that doesn't mean that you don't go in and double check that because you have to go in and verify that those answers were correct. But the thing is it saves you a lot of time of answering those as long as someone else has answered them. I might have a student who had perhaps already emailed me and said, I have a question about this. And then that question shows up in the question and answer online, so that student will give that student the answer to it. Another thing that I do here is that you need to plan to check that at least daily for two different things. To verify that the students have answered them, that they are correct answers. And secondly, if there is a question that one person has asked, I will answer it in the Q&A part, but then I will also go and email everyone. Because maybe not everybody is looking at the Q&A on a daily basis. So then I will go into either Blackboard or Edmodo, wherever I'm teaching, or excuse me, Blackboard or eCollege, wherever I'm teaching, and go into the email. And I'll send everyone an email and say, hey, somebody asked this question. I bet everybody may have this question, or a lot of you do, so here's the answer. So I try to get to the problem and give them the answer before it becomes an issue for them. Avoid sarcasm in the classroom. It just doesn't work online. So much of the sarcasm is these facial expressions, tone of the voice, and that can really lead to some miscommunication if you do that. Unless you have had that student before face to face, and you just need to stay away from that. But whether it's written, whether it's in audio, if it's a video you make, they just don't get it. And once again, with the many different backgrounds that they come to us with, they may not understand it. And you're not where you can read their body language and go, oh no, this is really what I meant. So this could really be a problem with communication. So just avoid the sarcasm. Okay, something else I do is I go beyond the syllabus. I have the syllabus, but then I have very detailed written information for every assignment. Some of them are 2 pages, some of them may be 5 to 10 pages, depending on how complex the assignment is. But I start out with an introduction, the overall of what the assignment is about, go into what the expectations are, and be very intentional and explicit with your written instructions, because when they're not there in the classroom to ask you these questions, they will need to go back to the written instructions to make sure that many of their questions are answered. A lot of times, and I will refer my students to this, because my students will say, what did you say about doing this field experience? Where can I go? What can I do? And I'll go, let me refer you back. And most times I will actually open the assignment myself, and I will copy that section and paste it in the email. Say, according to the written assignment, with this. Now, if that student continues to ask me those questions throughout the semester that are already in writing, then I'll go, after a time or two, I'll just go, you can refer to that assignment. Just refer to that written assignment, the answers are there. But the first time I'll usually say, oh, remember, ask for a written assignment. And do that. Another thing is that, and I've done this before, if there are explicit things I want to see, that I want them to do, I will put 1, 2, 3 order. Because a lot of the assignments I get may not be organized well. And I've noticed that if I put 1, 2, 3 order, then what I get from them will possibly be 1, 2, 3. It's a little more organized. So the way we communicate to them about the assignments is kind of helps them figure out how it is they are going to present it back to us. So it's kind of a preliminary preemptive strike type thing here. If you want it easier in a certain order, give it to them and in that same example. Here's just an example of, I have a theorist unit. These are the directions, and this is just the very beginning of it. But I just kind of give the overview of what it's about, what they're, what the project is, my whole intent of doing this, that type of thing. Something else I do, and I'm sure you guys probably do the same thing, but I make sure I provide very detailed rubrics for each assignment that I give. I include specific criteria, which comes from the standards that I must address in this course, okay? And then I also give very descriptive, specific levels of performance that they will achieve to get whatever desired grade they want. And I give this to them with the written assignment before they even begin the assignment so that they know what the expectations are. And here's just an example of one that I have. The standard or the criteria will be on the far left side. And then this is the graded scoring, where if they meet the indicator, they'll get between 27 or 30 points. If they partially meet the indicator, 21 to 26 points. And the indicator is not met, then there's a full description. So I put the full description under each one so that they know clearly what I'm going to be looking for. And I grade by this. This is what I look at. I have this beside me when I grade. So there are no questions. There's very little ideas of subjectivity when I grade because they see from the beginning what the expectations are. Also, use videos whenever you possibly can. You do a video introduction. I know that the Delta Center has all the equipment and they're really encouraging it. Let's do a video introduction to the course. And I know a lot of people are picking up the video lectures and the flipped classroom. But what I have found, I think works real well too, in addition to that, is that if I start getting a couple of questions and I see that students are very confused about an assignment, then I will develop a video response. You know, a minute or two video response. Just do it with whatever software you have and then upload it to all of them. That really saves you a lot of time and it streamlines your answering those emails. Once again, kind of a preemptive strike that if you start to get that question, go ahead and do the video, send it out to that also. A video also lets them know, oh, that really is a real person on the other end. Yeah. That's not just a computer that I see all the time. There really is a real person on the other end. That's also a way that you can show a personality, that you really do have a personality. And, you know, so it's so funny when they come to my office, they'll go, oh, Dr. Rice. And I'm going, yeah. You know, that they know what you look like, they know who you are, because you don't always see them. Even through Skype, a lot of them, they won't have their picture. They'll just have something else up there, but just the set format up there. But the feedback I get is they like that. That makes it more personable, and they're more secure in the course. The more personable you can be, the more secure they are. Okay, finally, and these are just some things that I do because I just, well, you know, I cannot leave them alone. I have to go out there and make sure they're okay at the time. And when I teach graduate students, it's night and weekends when they're doing most of their work. So I really try throughout various times throughout the week and weekends, I try to make myself available. And I try to be aware of the students' needs, times, and you know, because if you see that they have done posts at certain times, either late at night, might be midnight or 1 a.m., or early in the morning. You know, I have some students who post at 5 and 6 in the morning. Well, I'm not going to be up all those hours, but what I will do is that if usually I stay up later, then I'll log in and go, okay, you know, I'm getting ready to go to bed. I just log in and go, what's going on with the activity? If somebody's posted something, I will just make a comment or do a post and they go, oh, she's out there at this time, isn't she? Or if I'm up real early one morning and I have some time, I'll log in and go, okay, let me see what the comments are. Let me see what people are doing. I will post something so they know, oh, she's on now too, isn't she? So, and that's one of those perceptions that I think they feel more secure. If they feel like you're on as much as what you can be, they don't feel so alone out there. They don't feel feel like it's just cyberspace and they're all alone. But once again, you work that with your schedule. I'm not saying you have to be available at midnight and 6 a.m. But when you happen to be up and you can do that, just pop in and do something. And it appears to them, it's the perception that you are available all those times. Okay, so in conclusion, kind of a summary here. These are things I have found. Remain aware of your students' backgrounds and their differences in perspectives. Online office hours. Require students to participate in synchronous online meetings with you at least once during the semester. Designate online venue for questions and answers. Avoid sarcasm in the classroom. Provide complete written directions for all assignments and go beyond the syllabus. Provide rubrics for all assignments with the criteria. Include visuals, videos as much as possible. And the idea of being present for your students online. I think that feeling of a presence, like I said, really gives them security in the online course. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. It looks like we're right within the 30 minutes here, but we do have about 4 minutes. Any questions you may have, comments, or anything that you guys would like to contribute to the conversation, I'd love to hear it. Yes?
I'd just like to know, in your experience, what are some of the better ways to have a forum? Do you use a discussion board inside eCollege? Do you use, as you said, this Edmodo? What are the best ways that you found?
What I have found for discussions is if you have everybody in one big discussion, it gets to be a little cumbersome.
Okay.
You can do that. And what I do is in, let me turn the lights on so we can see each other. For instance, I have an assignment where I want them to all do research on a topic, and then I want them to all discuss it. Because part of the deal is I'm teaching them, it's a unit where I'm teaching them how do they learn to group their own students. So I put them in that situation. But they start out with the research. They find that then they have to list 5 different elements that you need to consider when you're thinking about grouping your students. And then what I do is I have them all go online. I just open it up to the whole class so that they have this big, huge discussion and say, this is where I think I fit. These are my talents. This is what I can do in a group. Who else out there would be able to do that? You know, who would be a complement for this? Or they could say, I do this. What I find I need is I really need somebody who does this. Who out there in the class can do? These are their skills. So that I let them to decide, you know, kind of who they think they can work well with. Then what they do is I take them, and those people that they're grouped with, then within eCollege, Blackboard, Edmodo, wherever, then I put them in smaller groups. And then for the rest of the semester, they're pretty much discussing in their individual groups. And those would be groups of 3 to 5 people, and it's much more manageable.
And they're discussing on a discussion board where they post and it's asynchronous, or do you make them?
Yeah, it's asynchronous.
Yeah.
And then I go in periodically and check and go, okay, is this group discussing? Because they discuss so many different projects.
Yeah.
So I have them go in and then I'll check periodically and say, okay, you're supposed to be working on this project. What are you guys saying here? Are you guys on target? Are you where you need to be? But if you have them all in one class discussing, it gets to be very cumbersome. But I found it more effective if you have small discussions. Now, what you can do is if you want to start as small discussions and then maybe have each group say, if there's something there they want to present, that whatever your topic is, that they come to a conclusion that we agree this, then what you may have them do is maybe they may do a video presentation for the rest of the class, you know, so that they can say, or they do a PowerPoint to share with what they've done on the project, to share with the rest of the class, so that everyone gets the benefit of it. But you just don't have everybody in a discussion board all at the same time.
What size classes are you doing?
What size classes? Anywhere from, you know, 25, 35, pretty much what it is.
How about Twitter? Do you Twitter?
I do Twitter. I do more following than I do actually Twitter. I tried Twittering with my students, and they just like there was nobody jumped in. And once again, it's kind of who your students are.
Right.
And I kind of check to see. It's like, hey, what are you guys doing? Do you Twitter? What are you guys doing? And once again, I think of who they are, how they communicate, so that I can communicate, at least initially, the way they prefer it. And as we move through the course, I try to move them in different directions so that as they move through the program, there are other ways that they will communicate.
Yes, do you find it easier do you find it easier that, I guess the pre-designed online classes sometimes, are those easier to manage, or the ones that you actually make up yourself? Okay. You know, the ones that you design, like the syllabus, because I'm teaching a class now, and it's pre-designed. I can take out what I want to, but it's just so much. Like for the summer, I had to take out a lot because it was 4 weeks. So what is your thought on that?
Pre-designed, that someone else has done it?
Well, yeah, like the educational system has put it there. They're
Yes.
using it for this particular course.
Yes.
And if the tests are there, the discussions are there, the PowerPoints are there, you just have to do the lectures.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of lectures.
Okay.
I do videos with little bits of information, kind of mini lessons, but I really don't do 15, 20-minute lectures. What I do is I do more of the interaction so that it's couched in where they are, and I direct them more to go do research and then let's come back and do a discussion rather than do more lecturing. That's just the way I prefer. I have more interactions. I have in the past, I have had some tests and some exams, some quizzes, that type of thing. But I prefer to do formative assessment on their discussions and where they are to really see if they're where they need to be in learning material. And then I have them do lots of projects, because the projects are an application of where they're going to be. For instance, if it's in our post-bac program, I'll have them work with interviewing students and parents of the age where they're going to teach to see where they are developmentally, so they're actually doing that rather than just textbook. They're actually doing that. They use the textbook as a resource, but I don't say read this and answer these case studies at the back. I want them doing their own case studies. And then for the Masters of Instructional Technology, I have them do real projects, and I have them go into their school districts where they are actually developing, like for instance, professional development training, that type of thing. So it's not, I don't do a lot of, sometimes the tests are necessary, but I prefer not to as much as possible.
Yeah, I did that in the spring, and it was kind of like I kind of used everything, and I'm like, wow, I really have this experience. I want to put my own personal touch on it. And then in the summer I did it, and it was just
well,
like
and
a big
I think
difference.
that's my personal opinion, that's really how you can personalize it and you make it more meaningful for your students.
Right.
Because if I'm trying to teach somebody else's material, I'm not really there with it. But if it's my own and I can talk to them about it and interact with them about it, I'm much more effective as a teacher. Okay, I think I've run you guys 4 minutes past, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and we continue to have this discussion. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, did you have to?
No, yeah, I was wondering, when you said,
Feel free to leave if you
throughout
guys
the
need to.
class, you usually require this conference session
Yes.
with students. When do you do it? Beginning of the class, or?
Usually, it depends on what the assignments are like.
Okay.
And depends on, when I taught the class, I kind of know when they're going to start feeling that stress.
Okay.
And it's usually midway throughout the semester.
All right.
Because they've had enough, it's like, okay, but oh, look, we have these to do also, and it's time to start answering some
Well, you
questions.
put it on the syllabus and then say,
Yes.
mid-time,
Yes.
we are going to have.
It's on the syllabus. I assign points to it, because you don't assign points, it doesn't mean anything, it's not worth anything to them. And I don't like to do that, but that's what they understand that that's important, because it is part of the course. But in the long run, it helps with their learning as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all so very much.
Thank you.